So, this is a video about how I draw my chibis. I've never done a video like this before, so please excuse me if I am incredibly awkward about this. But for my chibis, I try to pick a pretty cute pose, unless they're doing something kind of wild. I make sure the head is about the same size as the body, maybe just a little bit bigger, and it's going to get bigger when I add hair as well, so just about those kind of proportions. So to try to make the character a little bit extra cutesy, I usually make them either pigeon-toed or have the line of action kind of curved back a little bit so their head is up higher, their expression is cuter, I guess. I usually make very, very clean sketches, so it usually takes way longer to sketch than actually do the rest of the drawing. I add very big eyelashes and very big eyes in general to my chibis, just to, up that cute factor. I'm not very good at drawing long hair, so I don't know why I picked a character with long hair for this one. Since the proportions are smaller, even though the character's hair goes about down to her calves, I made it go pretty much all the way to the floor. I also went and added a darker background because the light background was hurting my eyes really bad. I also put my layers into folders to make it easier to move the whole drawing around without having to move each layer individually. So I lighten my base when I draw the clothes on just so it's a little bit easier, and I don't like doing everything all on one layer just in case I mess up, so that kind of gives me that freedom to make the changes I need to. So when I do chibis, I try to do thicker line lengths just to get that big, puffy, cute aesthetic. And I'm flipping the canvas a couple times just because when you flip it, it kind of highlights the stuff that's not quite right in your drawing. So just flip it back and forth to make sure I have everything right. Everything looks okay. I do a lot of different stuff on different layers. The hair is all on one layer, the clothes are all on one layer. Accessories are paired up with another layer just so I can keep those separate and out of the way. And then I always do the face on a separate layer because when I am coloring in the hair, that makes it a lot easier to get all those small details in that would otherwise have little white spots near the ends of it. So it just makes it a little bit clearer, a little bit easier to deal with. I also hate it when it looks very weird when two parts match up exactly to each other, like on the bear's arm and the hair. So I moved the hair a little bit just to make sure that it didn't have that weird overlap. It looks a lot better when the two parts are completely separate, if that makes any sense. So I use the magic wand selection tool to select the whole character and go ahead and fill in the skin so that there's no visible cracks between the skin and whatever other line art I have. And then I go in and just select every part individually after that and fill that all in. Using the selection tool highlights it, makes it easier to see which parts you may miss if you just do the paint bucket tool. Although for some of the smaller details that are harder to see, I do use the paint bucket tool just because I can fill it in a lot faster. I also meant to say earlier, when I do my line art, I ramp up the stabilizer really, really high just to get those nice, crisp, smooth lines. Sketching and coloring mostly, I put it very low just so I can have the freedom to manipulate the drawing how I want it to, but line art is always pretty crisp. So for the hair and skin, I added a very slight gradient just to give it a little more depth, make it look less flat. And then I go in with a slightly darker color. I actually shifted it a bit to orange to get a better color for the shadows. And then for the highlights, I go in with a white and just put it at a rather low opacity. Oh, also, so to shade, I use clipping layers, which is very, very, very helpful when doing stuff like this, because if you have a layer and then you put a layer above it that clips, everything that's on the layer above just automatically snaps to what's ever on the bottom layer. So you can kind of color recklessly and it'll all fill it in very, very nicely, and you don't have to worry about going back in and erasing every little detail. It's very helpful. So what I do on most all of my drawings is I go back and do the magic tool selection around the outside, and then I inverse it, and I use that to do an overlay, just to make some slight adjustments to fix some of the colors. You kind of have to play with it to get it exactly where you want it to go, but usually it'll end up with something pretty nice, and it'll blend the colors a little bit more better. And then I go in and make my outline a little bit thicker by quick selecting and then expanding the selection area. And then I fill it in with the same color that I use for the line art. And then I add a little more pop to it by doing the exact same thing, but filling it in with white. And then I go in and just make a very cutesy background that I think would fit the character. And then I go and grab my PNG file that has my logo and pop it in the corner with some low opacity. And that's how I draw my chibis. Thanks.